In the heart of Africa, in a land rich with resources but shackled by foreign rule, a boy named Patrice Lumumba was born. He didn't come from a royal family or a wealthy clan. His early life was that of an ordinary Congolese person under Belgian control. He worked as a postal clerk and, believe it or not, even sold beer for a time. But while he was sorting letters and handling bottles, his mind was busy sorting through bigger ideas. He saw the immense wealth of his homeland being shipped away, and he saw his people treated as second-class citizens in the place of their birth. This wasn't just an observation. It was a deep, burning injustice that settled in his soul and refused to leave him alone. Lumumba was a reader and a thinker, and he began to dream of a different future for the Congo. He envisioned a nation that stood on its own 2 feet, free from the chains of colonialism. He didn't just keep these thoughts to himself. He wrote them down, pouring his hopes into a book called Which Means Congo, My Country. In its pages, he laid out a vision for a unified, independent Congo where every person, regardless of their tribe or region, would be a full citizen. He imagined a strong central government that could hold the vast and diverse country together, preventing it from fracturing into pieces once the Belgians left. His dream was powerful because it was simple: Congo for the Congolese. This dream wasn't just about kicking the colonizers out, it was about building something new and better in their place. Lumumba believed in the potential of his people. He saw their strength, their resilience, and their right to determine their own destiny. He traveled, he spoke, and he organized, founding a political party called the Mouvement National Congolais, or MNC. This wasn't some radical, violent movement at its core. Lumumba initially hoped for a peaceful transition, a future where an independent Congo could even cooperate with Belgium as an equal partner. He was an idealist, a man who dared to believe that a better world was not just possible, but necessary for his people to truly live. His charisma was undeniable. When Lumumba spoke, people listened because they heard their own unspoken frustrations and deepest hopes reflected in his words. He was articulate, passionate, and fearless, qualities that made him a natural leader for a nation yearning to breathe free. He wasn't just a politician, he became the living embodiment of the independence movement. His journey from a postal clerk to a national figure was a testament to his powerful vision and his unwavering belief that the destiny of the Congo belonged in the hands of the Congolese people and no one else. The stage was being set for a dramatic and ultimately tragic fight for that very destiny. The road to freedom is never smooth, and Lumumba's path was full of potholes dug by the colonial authorities. In 1959, after a demonstration demanding independence, the Belgians did what colonial powers often do to charismatic leaders who get too popular: they arrested him. But you can't imprison an idea whose time has come. The pressure for independence was so immense that they had to release him. Not only did they let him go, but they flew him straight to Brussels to negotiate the terms of Congo's freedom. Imagine that. 1 minute you're in a colonial jail cell, the next you're at a round table in Europe, deciding the future of your country. That was the whirlwind that was Lumumba's life. On June 30th, 1960, the big day arrived. The Belgian flag was lowered, and the new flag of the Democratic Republic of the Congo was raised. It was a day of immense pride and celebration. Patrice Lumumba, the man who had dreamed so fiercely of this moment, became the nation's first ever prime minister. During the official ceremony, after the Belgian king had given a speech praising the civilizing mission of colonialism, Lumumba took the stage. He wasn't scheduled to speak, but he couldn't stay silent. He delivered a fiery, impromptu speech that shook the room and echoed across the continent. He spoke not of Belgian benevolence, but of the tears, fire, and blood of colonial oppression. His words were electric. For the Congolese people, it was a moment of pure vindication. Finally, a leader was speaking their truth on the world stage, without apology. But for the Belgians and other Western powers in attendance, it was a shocking affront. They had expected gratitude, not a history lesson on their own brutality. This speech instantly defined Lumumba. To his people, he was a hero, a fearless truth-teller. To the former colonizers and their allies, he was now a problem, a radical, an agitator who couldn't be controlled. He had drawn a line in the sand on the very first day of freedom, and in doing so, he made powerful enemies. The dream of a smooth transition quickly turned into a nightmare. Within days, the army mutinied. Then, the mineral-rich province of Katanga, led by a man named Moise Tshombe, seceded from the new nation. And who was there to help them? Belgium. the former colonial power sent troops back into the Congo, claiming they were there to protect Belgian citizens, but conveniently also securing their access to Katanga's vast copper and cobalt mines. The new nation was falling apart before it even had a chance to stand. Lumumba, the new prime minister, was facing a crisis designed to make him fail. A rude awakening to the fact that colonial powers don't just pack up and leave quietly. In the swirling chaos of the Congo crisis, Lumumba desperately needed allies he could trust. One of the men he relied on most was Colonel Joseph Mobutu, whom he had appointed as the army's chief of staff. Mobutu was his comrade, his guy, the man tasked with defending the new government. When Lumumba looked at Mobutu, he saw a fellow Congolese nationalist, a brother in the struggle who would help him keep the country together. This trust, this belief in a shared purpose, would prove to be Lumumba's most fatal miscalculation. He was a man who believed in unity, but he was surrounded by men who were calculating their own paths to power. As Lumumba struggled to deal with the Katanga secession, he pleaded for help. He went to the United Nations, but their peacekeepers wouldn't intervene to end the Belgian-backed rebellion. He went to the United States, but they saw him as too hot to handle, too anti-colonial for their Cold War tastes. Frustrated and cornered, Lumumba made a fateful decision. He asked the Soviet Union for assistance. In the middle of the Cold War, this was like waving a giant red flag in front of the American bull. For the US, Lumumba went from being a difficult nationalist to a potential Soviet puppet overnight. They now had a vested interest in seeing him removed from power, one way or another. This is where the betrayal cuts deep. On September 14, 1960, just a little over 2 months after independence, Colonel Joseph Mobutu, Lumumba's own chief of staff, went on the radio and announced a military coup. He declared that he was neutralizing the politicians to save the country from chaos. But it wasn't a neutral act. Mobutu, with the quiet encouragement and financial backing of the CIA and other Western intelligence agencies, effectively seized control of the government. He sided with President Kasavubu, Lumumba's political rival, and placed the prime minister under house arrest. The man Lumumba had promoted and trusted had just stabbed him in the back. The betrayal was total and devastating. Mobutu, the supposed protector of the state, had delivered it into the hands of those who wanted to see its first democratically elected leader gone. Lumumba was now a prisoner in his own home, guarded by the very soldiers he was supposed to command. His comrade had become his jailer. This single act of treachery by Mobutu was the point of no return. It opened the door for all the dark forces that had been circling Lumumba, waiting for their chance to strike. The dream of a united Congo was now in the hands of a man who would rule as a dictator for decades, all thanks to a betrayal born from personal ambition and Cold War paranoia. Trapped under house arrest, Patrice Lumumba's spirit remained unbroken. In late November 1960, he managed to escape, hoping to reach his political stronghold in Stanleyville and rally his supporters for a counter-offensive. It was a desperate, daring dash for freedom. For a moment, it seemed like he might just succeed, but forces loyal to Mobutu, aided by Western intelligence, were hunting him. On December 2nd, he was captured and dragged back to prison. The images of his capture, showing him beaten and humiliated, were broadcast to the world, a clear message from his enemies that his time was over. But even in defeat, his dignity shone through, making him a martyr in the eyes of many. His fate was sealed by a deadly partnership between his Congolese enemies and their powerful foreign backers. Both Belgium and the United States saw the imprisoned Lumumba as a persistent threat. As long as he was alive, he remained a symbol of resistance who could potentially return to power. The CIA had already been authorized to assassinate him, and Belgium had its own plots in motion. They decided he needed to be permanently silenced. On January 17, 1961, Lumumba and 2 of his colleagues were flown to the secessionist province of Katanga, the heart of enemy territory. It was a death sentence, and everyone involved knew it. The flight itself was an ordeal of pure brutality. He was beaten mercilessly by his captors. Upon arrival in Katanga, he was handed over to Moise Tshombe's forces and their Belgian advisors, who continued the torture. That same day, Patrice Lumumba was taken to a secluded spot and executed by a firing squad supervised by Belgian officers. To erase any trace of their crime, a Belgian police officer later oversaw the gruesome task of digging up the bodies, dismembering them, and dissolving them in sulfuric acid. The colonial powers that had failed to control him in life sought to obliterate him in death, leaving no grave to visit, no body to mourn. But you cannot dissolve an idea. The cover-up story, that he had been killed by angry villagers, fooled no one. News of his murder sparked outrage and protests across the globe. In death, Lumumba became more powerful than he ever was in his short, turbulent time as prime minister. He was transformed into an icon of anti-colonial struggle, a symbol of Africa's fight for true independence against the crushing forces of neo-colonialism and Cold War politics. Today, his name is spoken with reverence. Streets, squares, and universities are named after him. His story serves as a permanent, painful reminder of the dream of a free Africa, the betrayal that cut it short, and the enduring light of a leader who died for his people.